The FNRad Snowboard podcast is presented by Vans. Season 8 of FNRad is sponsored by Wired Snowboards, Anon Optics, the Boardroom Snowboard Shop, Find an Epic Agent Worldwide Real Estate, and Tribute Board Shop in Nelson, BC. Wired Snowboards is a Vancouver-based manufacturer and distributor of quality hand-built snowboards. One of their latest projects was building a board for the Vancouver Canucks. If you haven't seen it, check out Wired's Instagram. There are some rad shots of the board and Wired team rider and honorary Canuck Devin Walsh ripping it on Seymour. That was a fun session. I want to thank Brad Hepner for getting me out to that. Go to wiredsnowboards.com and design your own custom one-of-a-kind snowboard or choose from their many in-stock shapes. You'll be stoked. Support also comes from Dakine, Mount Seymour, Grouse Mountain, Pro Standard GoPro accessories, and Volcom Outerwear. Listeners, if you could manage a little liking and following, maybe ask a friend or two to do it as well, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That would help people find the show. Special thanks this episode to Beneath Apparel, Kaya J and the Drink Ticket's new album, Better, and Tomahawk Indigenous Products. Travis Wood was a pro snowboarder on the Joyride team before crossing over to the company side of the equation with Forum. Travis was the marketing guy at Fourstar Distribution during the absolute heyday, as you'll hear. And as an industry staple, he went on to work for Sims before starting his own distribution company. These days, Travis spends a lot of time raising his son and hunting in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains, where he lives and where we recorded this interview.
When I was at Forum, we were spending an ungodly amount of money on marketing and riders and all that different stuff that weren't, relative to our sales. There's a reason why it sold to Burton for debt and $1 or whatever the rumor was.
Oh, wow.
But when I went to Sims, there was a $35 million business. And I watched it basically go bankrupt, get sold to Jamie Salter that was at Gen X.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Who sold Gen X to Huffy that was a $500 million business.
Right.
That went bankrupt.
Unbelievable.
So, I didn't learn a lot necessarily at Forum business-wise because by all intents and purposes, we were doing everything right.
Okay, so let's dig into this Forum thing for a bit because I have a theory.
Well, but my point to follow that up is when I went to Sims and it failed, I learned more in failure. And I know it's cliche, but I learned more watching this $30 million business fall apart than I ever did in watching Forum go from $5 million to $35 million.
Got you. That makes total sense.
Right.
Yeah, my theory is that there hasn't ever been a snowboard company, or there wasn't a snowboard company in the 90s and 2000s that could afford the marketing budgets that they were doing. Like if they were to be business savvy, not to afford the budgets, to afford $1 million rider. Like there was never anyone that could pay $1 million rider and actually have the revenue of the board sales. Think of how many boards you got to sell of that guy's board in order to make it that number.
I can't remember what the metrics were, but let's say marketing should have been 8 to 10% of your total sales.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And if you're doing, let's say, $100 million in sales, and you're spending $8 to $10 million in marketing, and you've got 8 solid freaking riders, the money starts to go away, and then you think about the margins on snowboards. On a good day, if they're 50%, you're still giving discounts to people and paying early, and you're waiting for people to pay. You've got to have, when at Fourstar and Forum we started Circa, you've got to have a year-round business. Otherwise, you're dead in the water. But yeah, I don't know how a lot of companies survived then. And they didn't, really. I mean, if you think about it, they didn't.
None of them did. Yeah, none of them did.
Yeah.
I think Burton being, they had such a big market share, and they had their fingers in all sorts of different, they tried like Gravis shoes, but they diversified into like red helmets and kept that kind of separate for a bit. They made good marketing decisions, it felt like, and have stayed solvent the whole time. But I think also Jake and Donna Okay.
I don't know the capital requirements that they had.
Right.
I don't know the whole story, but I know they had some money behind the Carpenter name and stuff like that, or the Burton name, I should say. And just understanding the way that business works. I mean, look at Nike got in the snowboard business. And they got out many times, right? And so we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar company, one of the most well-known brands in the world. And they got out of it.
What do you think that says? Like, what's your guess on that?
Oh, I think then I probably had one, theory about it. Today, I think snowboarding barrier to entry it's expensive. Mm-hmm. I mean, I haven't been up and paid for a ticket for a while, but the last time I did, I think I went to Squaw Valley before it changed over to Palisades, and it was $185.
I paid $210 yesterday.
Just a frickin' ride.
$210. They had like 3 out of their chairlifts.
There's obviously a reason they're getting that money. There's obviously a reason they're charging that money. I'm sure it's expensive to operate, but I gotta think from a soft goods, hard goods standpoint, at the end of the day, there's just no money in it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
For the amount of time and energy you're putting into it, and I'm sure there's an algorithm that Nike uses and looks at their core business and their other businesses and says this just ain't worth the money.
Yeah. There's a cutoff point. I think I was similar to you, and I'm going to make a guess here. The thought before was that they just couldn't be number one, so they didn't want to be second or third or fourth. But I think at this point, it's like they just looked at the money in it and said, this is such a small market.
Right. I mean, are they still doing the skateboard thing?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm assuming they do, but they do shoes.
Yes.
So that makes sense. Boots is a little bit, it's close, but it ain't, and then imagine trying to do boards or hard goods. And snowboarding is such a, from a business standpoint, such a different animal than anything else out there. The closest thing you can compare it to is skiing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now, I don't even know the brands that are out there. The only one I really kind of pay attention to anymore is Capita because it's blue, and blue is an old, homie. But I don't know how they're doing from a business standpoint. Looking at the umbrella company that they have, the C3, they've got to have multiple brands that have that revenue for times when it's slow.
Yeah. It seems like they're doing really well.
Last thing in the world I would get involved is the snowboard business. That and a CBD company. Those are probably two of the last things.
Why not CBD?
Because I'm already involved in one, and I freaking knew I shouldn't have been. But all props to Steve Ruff and Just Live. But where I live, this is heavily influenced by CBD and THC, and I've seen a lot of guys that made a lot of money growing take that money and try to go legal and go into the legal CBD market, and they've all lost their ass, every single one of them.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I dabbled with CBD just like personally when it first came in. I'm like, this sounds great, not getting high, eating a bunch of, getting the benefits. And at first I was like, wow, I have great sleeps, but I already had great sleeps. Right. I'm like, oh, the pain relief is great. And then I was like, is it though? I don't know. And then I heard a big podcast about, like, technically CBD, if you ingest it, your liver processes like 80% of it, so you're only getting 20%. A little bit of the dose, whereas topically it's actually pretty good.
I know there's new science behind CBZ and all the different things. Wow. I know they're breaking it down to where they're getting it a little more refined. For Just Live, I'm an investor in that company. They pivoted from just CBD to more of a sports and wellness, and that's starting to take off. Yeah. But my point is there's some things that are things I wouldn't invest in anymore. No offense to the investment that I have, but
for the money people in my life, the excitement of finding the new thing when it's like what you were talking about with the stock. So if there's a 50-cent stock that's going to go to $100, that you could do one transaction and basically set yourself up to retire.
My rule of thumb when I'm investing, and it's changed over the years, but I used to have this rule: if 30% of my investments hit, if I invest in 10 things and 3 of them hit, typically those 3 have paid out 10 times more than what I've lost.
Gotcha.
But there's a guy, Dan Pena, that I follow. He's an old school, extroverted, hard-nosed business guy. And he says, man, the big boys, when they invest in something, they don't diversify. They go frickin' all in. And so that's kind of what I've been doing the last couple of years with investments and stuff.
Yeah. So you were always the whole way through, like investing. Did you invest in properties and that kind of stuff when you were young, or?
When I was, I started snowboarding back in 90, I think was the year.
What was the board that you were on?
I was thinking about this earlier because I knew you were coming over, and I couldn't even tell you the damn video parts that I was in when I snowboarded, because I had a different mentality about how I saw snowboarding. I loved to snowboard, obviously, but what attracted me to it is that it pissed people off. Because I was an old punk rock kid back in Orange County in the punk rock scene. Sick. Back when No Doubt was an actual punk rock band and not a glam band.
Yep.
And I grew up in Big Bear Lake, but I moved down to Orange County when I was early in my teens, and then I went back up to Big Bear Lake, and so I skied like everybody else that was around at that time. We didn't have snowboarding, and all my buddies were snowboarding one time, and we went up night snowboarding, and I don't even remember the board I had, but I want to say it was either a Sims or it might have been a Lamar, one of the two. Somebody let me borrow. Yeah. And I was chasing this girl, and she was cute. I was trying to get after her, and she snowboarded, and so I went up, and she freaking smoked me, man. She was laughing at me. I remember every part of my body was sore, but that's how I got into it. And once I started it, I haven't skied since. Right. And nothing against skiing, but I just didn't have a reason to do it. And I got into it because, when I went into the line at the ski lift to get on, the skiers hated me. And I was like, I grew up skiing. And I was like, what the fuck is this guy's problems? But when I moved down to Orange County, I got into surfing and skateboarding and stuff like that. And I just loved how much it pissed the establishment off. Totally. And that was always my draw to snowboarding, was more of a community of kids saying fuck the norm. Totally.
Totally. Yeah. It's not there anymore, and it's right. Shocking. I mean, it's there in some pockets. Right. But it's I took the intern for the show to Banff for like Crush's Holy Bowly event. Right. Oh fuck, it was so cool. Yeah. But on the way out there, we drove by COP, Calgary Olympic Park. Right. And there was a big half pipe, and it was in the sun. It was perfectly groomed. Right. And I was like, pull over, man. He's like, why? I'm like, because we're going to go ride that half pipe. You're going to pirate it. He's like, no, I don't want to trespass. That's weird. Why are you trespassing? Yeah. I said, listen, kid, if there's a half pipe in some snow, and there's snowboarders going by, the snowboarders get to ride that. That's just the way that it is.
Well, what's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to kick you out.
Right. Yeah. So then at the end, as we're driving out, he's like, that was the best day of my life. That's most fun snowboarding I've ever had. But yeah, if you contrast what we were going through, which was massive product like innovation. So that's fun. Right. People hate on you. Oh, yeah. So that's fun. Right. And so, because if they're already hating on you, and then you have a little bonfire in the parking lot, you're smoking cigarettes and drinking beers, and they come over, they go, what the fuck are you guys doing? We're doing what we're doing.
I just, again, growing up as a punk rock kid, you're wearing Doc Martens and having mohawks and, flight jackets and Dickies or, bondage pants and stuff like that. So you already look different. Yep. So I was used to, people kind of staring at me, and then snowboarding was just an extension of that. And, you had guys like Rochi and Palm. And it's interesting because, they're like a generation before me, but we're not that far off in age. Right? Which is weird because we're only a couple years older, but it was a different generation, if you will. Totally. But those guys, to me, were like, fuck yeah, these guys are fucking punk rock. That's what it's all about. And obviously it's changed over the years, and you had the hip-hop and all the different influences. But in the beginning, at least in my mind, it was just an extension of being punk rock.
Yeah, I think there was a beginning before the beginning where it was just like kind of weird California surf vibe, or like it didn't really have a vibe. You had all these little pockets all over the place in Utah and BC and California where people were just building boards out of plywood and then riding in the passes.
Well, you had like, Damien's generation, Sanders and Farm and all those guys, and everything kind of came from skiing because that's the only thing that anybody was doing on snow except for tobogganing, Yeah. And then you had, kids like, Noah and AV and all those guys in Tahoe that were taking that skate style and the skate attire, if you will, and transforming it or bringing it to the snow. And that was the part that like Like the Damon Dayglow was like, I mean, we all did it as skiers because that's all we freaking had. But once, you know, the skate influence started happening, again, I mean, I loved snowboarding, but I was never a great snowboarder. By the time I would learn a trick, it was already outdated. You know, my snowboard career started after the rail craze kind of ended. And my snowboard career ended when the rail craze started up again.
I got you.
And I got so freaking broke off on rails, it was like, I'm not a good snowboarder.
I know exactly that.
But I love the culture.
Right? Yeah. Well, you mentioned the skate style coming in. It was like the very first skate style was, probably like Salaz and those guys. And Hetzel. They were vert skaters.
For sure. And Dale and Nate and all those guys.
Yeah, that was when it really just exploded.
That was where it was going.
Yeah, it was like Dale and Nate and the Joyride team that we were talking about before. And
Donahue,
Adam Merriman
right?
and all the guys up in
Rest
Colorado.
in peace, Adam. Rest in peace.
Man. Yeah. So it was kind of inevitable. I think you're right. Like the freestyle thing happened. It's crazy how close the stuff is. Like you say, your generation was close to, you know, the Damien generation. Well, in skateboarding, there was like 70s skateboarding that kind of morphed into 80s skateboarding, early 80s. And snowboarding had that too. There was 70s snowboarding, and it kind of morphed into 80s snowboarding at the same time.
Right. Well, and you know, you had guys like Tom and Jake that were like, you know, Terry and the early guys, Craig, you know. Yeah. And you think about like even Craig and Terry, and these guys weren't that much. When you talk about generation, I think of like, you know, Gen Z, or Gen X and all that. We're talking 5, 10, 15 years.
Parents, grandparents.
Right. And now in snowboarding, you're talking like, you know, senior in high school is one generation, and a freshman is a whole other generation. And so within that, there were so many different styles and different progressions of just those eras alone, you know.
Who were your guys? Like, what were the movies that you were watching, the guys that you were like emulating?
Dude, it's if I ever get asked about movies, and I just, you know, I just remember Fall Line Films had some stuff that I like to watch, Standard obviously, and Mac Dog. Yeah. And then there was some independents, you know, that I had filmed with. I remember Marcus Poulsen did a movie, but I couldn't tell you what it was. But
Rad.
You know, there was the three main guys. And I had a good friend in high school, Brian Thien, who was a professional snowboarder.
Hell yeah.
And Brian was one of those freaks that like was just good at everything. And, you know, the kid in high school was like, I think he graduated, he was like 5'8" and 130 pounds. Yeah. And for some reason out of high school, he had a growth spurt, and he was like 6'1" and, you know, 180.
Oh, I didn't know.
And he was one of those super tall guys like Donahue that had just amazing style for how tall he was.
Rad.
And, you know, he was one of the first guys I snowboarded with, along with a couple other guys. And watching him do it, and he was a really good skateboarder and surfer, and he was just so smooth. And so I kind of just hung out with him and followed him around. And I didn't know anything about the actual scene of snowboarding.
Right.
I was just hanging out with my buddy Brian snowboarding. And Brian started filming with Fall Line Films, and I think he was like Roadkill. He was in Roadkill, so I remember that one.
Yeah, he was.
And I remember Up in the Ante with Mac Dog. Yeah. And all of a sudden, like our little shop that we went to skateboard and snowboard started helping him get sponsors, and he was just all of a sudden traveling and in these videos, and I had no freaking idea what that was all about.
That's so sick.
So he got me into snowboarding the scene part just by hanging out with him and watching what was going on. And I had some events in my life where you get that fork in the road, and you're either gonna fucking die if you keep making the same choices, or you're gonna do something else. And I had one of those moments where I was in some deep shit, and I had some people that were looking for me, and I needed to get out of town. And this was before social media and phone, so it wasn't easy to find people.
Yeah, you could just move a town over.
Right. And Brian called me, and he was living up in Big Bear, and he was like, dude, you should get out of town and come up to Big Bear and snowboard. He's like, you're a good snowboarder. Like, you might get sponsored or something.
Rad.
So I said, shit, that sounds better than fucking getting killed. And so that's how I got into it. And I knew enough about business from my dad to see trends and see how things were going that I could pick up on, you know, what I needed to do to be a part of the scene, if you will.
That's rad. So you do probably, 3-4 years as a pro, maybe more?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Did it pay the bills? Like, were you at some point just like riding for your living?
So full disclosure, like when I was a teenager in high school and into college, I was selling weed.
Okay.
And, I would go and buy a couple pounds and break it up into eighths.
Yeah.
And I would make a couple grand a week. Like, back then that was good money.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that I sold for, if you will, I'd get it fronted to me. It was kind of like a little umbrella network. Well, I got rolled. Somebody had rolled me.
Oh, no way.
And the cop showed up at the door and, you're going to go to prison forever if you don't give us the names of people that you're working for. And that was scary.
That's fucking
That was a scary
crazy
situation. Yeah. And
you're a kid.
I was 18. And
wow.
They had my little black book so they could see the names of the people.
No.
And so they had a couple guys' names in there with their Polaroid pictures on the wall. And they say, we know this guy and we know this guy and we know you're working for him. And almost got me to roll.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they got me scared. And I know everybody talks, I'd never roll, blah, blah. When you're sitting there in fucking jail and you're sitting around guys that are fucking tatted up and you're 18 years old and you're the little skinny white boy in there, it's scary. But I didn't roll. What ended up happening is there was 3 guys that I was involved with. 2 of them ended up dead.
Oh, my God.
One of them ended up with 3 holes in his chest, and the other
Holy shit.
one was found at a stoplight in Anaheim with his head blown off.
Jesus.
And he had a bunch of money and weed right next to him, and somebody just executed him. And that's when I decided I needed to get the fuck out.
Shit.
Right. And so they ended up, years later, the guy ended up getting busted. He had both those guys executed so they wouldn't rat him off.
Oh, my God.
And he knew me. And so that's where I was like,
Yeah, that's scary as fuck.
Right. And so my point to that is that, so he ended up getting busted. He was smuggling drugs with HA through Harley Davidson parts from the East Coast to the West Coast. They were putting cocaine and meth, shipping them back and forth. And he ended up getting busted. And they took down 54 people, including DEA agents, and a whole list of his family members that had fronted businesses. So the point was, so I went up to Big Bear to get the hell away from that.
Yeah.
And by default, I got sponsored. And I don't remember exactly how it happened other than, I had a shop I was riding for, Hot Skates.
Nice.
And down in Orange County. And it was a skateboard shop. This guy, Rudy, owned it. And he had some connections. And somehow... Steve Graham grew up in the same town that we did, Orangeville Park. So Steve was like the man.
The man.
And Steve floated aboard to the shop and let me ride a Lamar. And so I rode that for a little while. And then GT, Greg Tomlinson, props to Greg. He was Von Zipper, but he was a Moro rep at the time. And then he started floating me boards. And shit, I just started riding and charging and doing my thing.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really paying attention to what I should be doing, who I should be doing it for. I was just doing it. And eventually Mark Hibden and Matt Donahue and Dan Paterka, the skateboarder Dan, who were part of Movement. They were starting this company called Movement. And I was up just riding. I think I was riding, at that time, GT went to ride and floated me a ride board.
Rad.
I was riding I think I was riding the Dale's. No, I think I was riding Russell's board. Yeah. And it was a short-ass board. It was like a 146, and I'm 6'1",
dude.
And I'm just tossing off big moguls and bumps. And anyways, the Movement guys were like, hey, you want to ride for us? And I'd gotten product before, but I didn't know, want to ride for? What does that mean exactly?
Yeah.
But yeah, Movement brought me in, paid me a little bit of money, and gave me a travel budget. From there, I ended up getting picked up by Joyride. And Joyride was where I made money. And, not a lot of money, but my point to telling you that story is I had weed money.
Right.
That I had stashed away. And while I was going to college, I was working at a mortgage company and snowboarding. And so I stashed that away. And so I was living off unemployment, weed money, right? And money I had in the bank.
Yeah.
And Joyride was like, we'll pay you X amount of dollars. I don't remember what it was. And travel budget.
Damn.
And I was like, cool. Yeah. And I was like, well, how does the travel budget thing work? And they said, you just, travel, you get certain budget and we'll reimburse you.
Unbelievable.
And I said, well, fuck all that. Just give me the travel budget and the salary, because I understood enough that I could write it off and so could they.
Right.
Just give me the money and I'll travel.
Yeah.
And you can just write it off. You don't have me to submit expenses.
Yeah.
So I think the most I ever made was like 30 grand, but we're talking 94, 95.
That's like you get a mortgage for a fairly good home with a $30,000.
It wasn't like I was making in the weed game or the mortgage business, but
yeah.
Dude, I was living with my friends in the mountains. I was going to Mount Hood in the summertime coaching, and then I was coming back and surfing in San Clemente until winter came around. Like, somebody was paying me to do that.
That's unfreaking.
Yeah, I got lucky. I didn't deserve to get paid, but somehow.
No, you did.
I was a shitty snowboarder. But I was back then. You could have a personality. Personalities mattered, and you can market it. And it was going from that, riding in the magazine, sponsorship ads, images to. I remember Rowan like sitting on a chair on the beach, and Brian Thien like golfing on a pool table with I'm seeing for Special Blend, and it was like that was where it was going. It was like I just had to be a good personality and get a couple shots in the magazines and videos. And I did that great.
Yeah.
And then Peter Line started flipping upside down, and my freaking career was done.
Yeah. I remember that very, very well. That time where if you could do a nice shifty back 180, you were ready to get a sponsorship. And then I can grab mute, man. I can grab mute. I can spin 360s, and then all of a sudden it was upside down and backwards. A lot of backwards stuff, and it really just separated the wheat from the chaff is what it was.
And it should have been.
Yeah.
It should have been.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot more money, and it was like skateboarding had made us feel like the sponsorship route was the way to go.
Right.
I met a guy on the Donner chairlift, and his stickers on his helmet and stuff were still not sponsored.
Right.
And he is like that punk attitude you were talking about, like from back in the day. He was like, fuck being sponsored. Me and my friends were like, nah, we aren't going for sponsorship.
Right.
I was like, oh, dude, I was the opposite of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if being a snowboarder was kind of like being a vagabond.
Yes.
That got unemployment, and and I like the idea of, I know this. When I left Form and went to Sims, I got really clear on who my friends were because I wasn't at the cool company anymore, and I was trying to rebuild a company. And then when I left Sims and got out of snowboarding, I got even more clear about who my friends were. But what I really got clear on was when I went snowboarding with my friends, that was what it was all about. Yeah. That was the feeling. That was what it was really ever all about, being punk rock and this feeling of snowboarding. But when I was in the scene, it was about how do I get to the next fucking day and snowboard.
Yep.
And we all know the top ramen with the egg and the macaroni with the hot dogs and all the shit that you eat just to get by.
Yep.
And the beer with the white can and the blue label that just says beer. Like we all did that shit. And so, in hindsight, I should have never been sponsored. But I definitely appreciated what the sponsors did for me. And I totally get like why Rowan, for example, would say, fuck this and check out and just ride to ride.
Yeah.
And I think any path that you do it, that you can ride and enjoy it is great. I'll tell you this, I never had more fun snowboarding than when I wasn't sponsored.
Right.
Because there's no pressure. You don't have to do it on anybody else's time. There's no responsibilities. And you're just free to express,
Yeah. I see that a lot with the guests of the show. I was just riding with Blaze yesterday.
Right.
He's a great champion of that cause. But then it's kind of weird because now he's back on Corey Smith's spring break. Right. And so he's like, let's get some clips. And I'm like, he's like, this is a job. I'm like, oh God. But he's that kind of hustler. He likes to be doing things, it seems
there's guys like that too, like Chad Otterstrom and even like Kurt Wastell and
Hell yeah.
Bobby, I know still has it, Blue, Cody, Dresser. That those guys can fucking still snowboard and pretty darn good, especially good for the age group.
Yes.
And Blaze is one of those guys too. And if they can get some cheddar from that, making some money from it, more power to them. My fucking hips are broken, my body's broken, like I get up and down the hill to chase an elk, but I'm not not getting after it like I used
So you went from pro snowboarder to team manager kind of guy, or was that like?
You know, I was so after the Joyride thing ended, I think I tore my Achilles tendon, and the cool thing about back in the day, when you got a video part, that guaranteed you 2 years of money. Nice. 1 year while you were filming the video part, and then another year for after the video part, and then if you didn't get one after that, a video part, then the gig was up and people knew you were, you know, weren't on your shit. But you know, so I had a video part in one of Whitey's movies. I can't remember what it was called, but it was nothing special. I think Joyride, you know, sponsored the movie. So thank you, Whitey, for putting me in all your movies when you didn't have to. The contract was up. I knew I was done. I think I was like 26, 27. My body freaking hurt. My buddy Jason Bump, who I lived with, and Brian Thien out in Utah. I knew Jason was taking a job in the industry, and he had been taking some computer classes for design. Cool. And I knew I had to do something. And, you know, while I tore my Achilles tendon, I had some time on my hands, and Chad Denena, you know, from Nixon, that's now at Transworld, got me some kind of, you know, foot in the door to be able to write. So I started submitting independently articles to Transworld, but I think my style was a little abrasive for them. I think I submitted some stuff to Pat Bridges at Snowboarder, and they gave me some little column that I did. Yep. But then they had Blunt Magazine. Nice. And Blunt was more my style, and you know, my kind of aspect or my pitch is that, you know, I'm a snowboarder. I know what snowboarders talk about. I know what really fucking goes on. Hell yeah. Besides all this political shit. And so I went and started writing a lot for Blunt. And while I was still snowboarding and I was doing interviews, and I kind of transitioned out of snowboarding into marketing and media and promotions at Fourstar, which at the time was Special Blend, who I rode for, FourSquare, and Forum. And they needed somebody to handle all the media and marketing. Not marketing in a sense of marketing the products, but marketing the riders. Got it. So you got to imagine this, like, I'm like never really a great pro snowboarder, tail end of my career. You know, when I first saw JP come off this cornice, 40-foot fucking cliff, and do like half cab 540 and land, or I was like, I'm fucking done. And I was watching him, and now to be able to be on that team, if you will, totally, was pretty cool. You had Peter at the time, JP. I don't think Jeremy was on there yet, and I think we had BJ and Bjorn and Chris Duffy. Then you had Mac Dog, that was part of it. Unbelievable. And it was like, Mac Dog's a god. Yeah. And you had a couple designers in there that I knew about that were on their shit. Steve Ruff was a pro snowboarder up in Big Bear, and went from Dragon to work for Form, and I knew Steve really well. He was my team manager at Dragon. Sick. And so it was like, here we go. Here's another opportunity for me to be into something where I'm not that good, but I got this team of people. Okay, but on this one, I'm calling your bluff, because you are that good. You can see what this is. Well, I didn't know that then, though. You have to understand, when I went in there, I sat in a meeting with Mac Dog. And anybody that sat in me with Mac Dog knows the Mac Dog lazy eye stare. Well, he will fucking stare you down and pick your soul apart. It feels like that. Yeah. I had it with Peter, which Peter and I were always cool, but you know, Peter didn't talk much, very introverted, somewhat intimidating, and Rawl, who I knew, and Ruff, who I knew, and they knew like my punk rock dark side, because I was off the hip and said a lot of shit and didn't play by the rules, especially with Blunt. Yeah. And Mac Dog and Peter had this cleaner image, so it was a little nerve-wracking, but I remember sitting in a room with them, and they're just like kind of breaking me down, like, what are you going to do, and how are you going to do it, and you're going to keep all this Blunt shit out of here and not be so, you know, crass and blah, blah. And they really said that for real? Yeah, I mean, and I understood, because, you know, I mean, we were doing stuff with Blunt, like, with porn stars and like, you know, Cody shitting in beanies and like, you know, product testing, breaking bottles over our heads. Totally. So, you know, they had a completely different image, but who was at Blunt at that time? Was Andy Bloomberg a part of that? This was right around, there was a couple different guys. I mean, Tremaine was, you know, the guy, the main guy, right? After Ken had sold it. Yeah. You had Tremaine, Cliver was there, Dave England was there.
Rad.
I mean, all the Jackass guys, basically, before Jackass.
Were you there when Sean and Sean came down from Canada?
Oh, yeah.
About the whiskey thing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Johnson and Kearns were two of my favorites.
Yeah.
And Andy was... I think Andy was brought in there to more like clean up shit
because it had gotten.
Yeah, so I think because like Carney was like an editor or something like that. Dave Carney was like, it was just, we got everything done we needed to get done, but
it would have been fun. Like that would have been just. It's like at the start of this thing. That nowadays, like, what are you going to do now? Like, because all the shit that they've done is so gnarly. Now kids are, like, jumping into cactuses and shit.
Yeah, it's side note, I was in, I took a acting class in Hollywood because I started to have to speak in front of large crowds.
Rad.
And somehow or another, my acting teacher got me this audition, and it went to network, which is, like, the last thing you do before it's an actual show.
Wow.
And so they got me this manager at this place called Handprint Management, and she was like, "Okay, you're like a ex-snowboarder meets this." They try to categorize you. And I was like, "Yeah, whatever." And she said, "Well, we've got this new show that we're pitching to MTV, Spike TV, and VH1, and tell me what you think about it." And she puts on the show, and it's fucking a Jackass teaser.
Oh, my God.
Right? And I'm in the video, Cody's in the video, and I'm like, who the fuck is pitching this to you guys? It's Jeff Tremaine.
It's Tremaine, right.
I'm all, this is going to fucking be on TV? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, fucking right.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And I never talked to Tremaine about it, and the next thing I know, fucking Jackass is huge, but that all came from Blunt. But so I was at, writing and stuff like that, and Raul and MacDog and Peter and these guys decided to bring me on. And I was like, oh, shit. So not only that happened, but Jason Bump, who is a pro snowboarder of mine, he got brought on in the art department.
Rad.
So I was like, cool. We're all moving to San Clemente, and I had ridden for Fourstar, so for Special Blend, so I knew him. And you know what, man? All the shit that my dad had said to me over the years, business-wise, started to click. I started to look at what I had going on differently. And where I sucked as a pro snowboarder, I'm not sure that I necessarily made up at working at Fourstar, but I knew this. At the time, we had the crack, and the crack were the forum guys.
Fuck yeah.
And the crack users were, your customers and the magazines.
Yeah.
And I distinctly remember nobody gave me any guidance on how things should be done. I sat there and I thought about how can we get as much coverage as possible from these guys. And I knew Burton, I think, maybe had a staff photographer, Joe Curtis, right? Because Jeff Curtis. And I had a relationship with Mathis, and MacDog had a couple filmers on there that shot photos. And I knew how these photographers worked, and they got a couple, day rates a month, and that's kind of how they live. And they try to sell photos to the mags and to advertising, to ads for advertisers. And so I hit up Mathis, was like, hey, I'll pay you X amount of dollars a month. Every time these guys leave the air until they hit the fucking ground, I want a picture of it.
Yeah.
And we'll pay all your expenses for traveling. You're going to shoot the best guys, and I will handle all the distribution of your photos. You don't have to do shit.
So Forum owns the photos. He's a staff photographer.
The way that we kind of had it is that Forum owned the photos for a certain amount of time, and then they went back to them. But in that, I brokered Mathis's photos for ads.
Yeah.
He got paid on from other companies.
Yeah.
I took all his photos down to the magazines and got them picked. Okay. And I had books of every single rider. There's stories about this, but I had books of every single rider, stacks.
Yeah.
And I would go in there, and I would go to Shem, or I would go to Jeff at Snowboarder, and Shem Roos at Transworld. And I'd let them look at them, and they would write TW or SB. And then I would say, okay, well, Transworld wants to use this photo of Jeremy for the cover. What do you guys want to do?
Yeah.
And it got to the point where Nico would lay out the whole entire interviews. I would record the interview, transcribe it. We would lay the whole thing out. We would hand people packages.
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't have to do anything. We
That's
did
incredible.
it for them.
Yeah.
And then we duplicated those because you could duplicate photos back then. You were looking at little slides.
Yep.
And I would send it over to Monster Backside magazine, to White Lions in the UK, to Japanese Trans World.
Rad.
We had the crack.
Yeah, that's smart.
And so, I was able to put it together, but there wasn't any genius about it. It was like, look who the fuck we had writing for us.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Now, there is a bit of genius to it, though, for sure, because you
put the things. I just put the dots together.
Yeah,
if you will.
yeah. Well, that's really fucking cool, and what a time, right?
Right.
Did you go on those team trips and stuff?
Oh, yeah.
I've gone after the forum guys for the interviews, and the last guy I interviewed was Ville.
Yeah,
and,
I heard that one.
And
he was right. You know what the funny thing about Ville is listening to him say that, like, he never really fucking did like being around all that shit. I was thinking about it, because you had your Peter, which was kind of like the squad captain.
Totally.
You had your JP, who was just on another level, and Jeremy right there.
Yep.
You had Duffy, Smile for Miles, the kid's a fucking great kid. You had Canada's best fucking snowboarder in Devin Walsh.
Absolutely.
You had BJ, the Wonder Kid, and then I want to say maybe Nate. Okay, but here, side story, Form 8.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks about the Form 8. That's what they call it, the Form 8.
Sure.
I don't think anybody's ever heard the story about how the Form 8 came to be.
No.
Everybody just thinks it's 8 guys. So what happened was we're sitting there Friday night at the office. Todd Hahn, props to Todd Hahn, the agent, calls me and he says, hey, and Todd and I talked a lot. You heard what Burton's doing? I said, what's Burton doing? They said, Jason Brown wants to put together something to compete with Forum. They're going to call it 7.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, are you shitting me? He's like, no. And I was like, huh. I'm like, all right, hey, appreciate the info. We had an ad due that was already past due. We were famous for missing ad deadlines.
Yeah.
And I went in, called Steve Ruff, Raul Reese, and Nico in, and I said, here's what Burton's doing. Burton's coming after us.
Yeah.
What do you think we should do? Nico had an actual picture of all those guys, did an outline around it.
I remember the ad.
And drew Forum 8.
Oh my God.
And that is how
Jay Brown was right. That's so crazy.
That's how
Yeah.
it came to be.
That's amazing.
And there
That's
was
amazing.
that was like shoot from the fucking hip.
Yeah.
But once we had that done and it took off, it was like,
It was fire.
freaking running
It was
with
fire.
this.
Yeah. I was doing interviews for years.
Yeah.
Before Jay Brown said, think about it. Forum 8. There was Burton 7, Forum 8.
Yeah.
I was like,
so the thing was they
know.
hadn't introduced
Right.
7 yet.
Right.
It was a line that was going to be a production that was, a board series was going to be in their production line.
Totally.
And they hadn't run any ads or anything.
Oh, wow.
And we slipped that ad right before the deadline.
What a bummer for
And
them.
I think, I was kind of, there was a lot of egos over at Forum then, obviously with the riders and stuff like that. And I think we're all adults now where we can admit it rough. And I didn't necessarily think that obviously any of the success was because of me, but I had a part in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
What I did in my title at my game, I was doing really well. And I understood the mentality of all the other kind of marketing magazine kind of people.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember going to a Trans World conference when they had those.
Yep.
And the editors of the magazine being up there and the staff writers and team managers and marketing people complaining because their people weren't getting enough shots.
Right.
And they wanted to see more of this in the magazine. And the editors were saying, this is what we're looking for the magazine.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to these guys argue with them, and I'm saying to myself, they're fucking telling you
Yes.
what they fucking want. Just fucking give it to them.
Write that shit
That's
down.
all I fucking did.
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
next year at the Trans World Conference, they had me up on the panel for some reason, and all these team managers and guys were asking me, like, why are you guys getting so many photos? And I gave them some generic answer, like something like, it's all about your program. Like, you guys have a pipe program, you guys want to do the Olympics, that's your fucking thing.
Totally.
We're going for videos. But I never gave them the formula, but the formula was right there in front of them. They just didn't want to hear it.
Transworld was, so I've interviewed Kevin Kinnear, who started
Yep.
Transworld, and he came from a surf background. He's unapologetically not a snowboarder
Right.
in his heart. Like, he can carve and stuff. He's fine, but he didn't come from that. He was a nostalgic surfer who was like, oh, I know exactly how to do this magazine. no pay for play, because what had happened in surfing was you could pay, you bought an ad campaign, you got so many covers and this and that and the other thing. But all through it, Transworld would just say, I was at one of these meetings where they said, listen, here's what you do. You've got your brand, you've got your riders. Look at the list of staff photographers, hire one of those guys. Use them to do your ad shots, buy an ad, and then the other shots from that
like
shoot
surfing
is going to be the shit that goes in the magazine. And they said, listen, we get from some of these companies, we get 5-10 submissions a month. From Burton, we get a book. Like we get stacks. So if you want us to put your shit in the magazines, just know that Burton is submitting so much. That's why they get so much. It's not because they buy the ads in the magazine, which maybe helps a little. But like, get some fucking rad shots with some of our photographers.
Well, what I did, I tried to make it as easy as possible. On the guys there, because they're getting calls from everybody. They all want their riders in there. They're looking through thousands of photos. I mean, there was times when I was eating cans of tuna and looking at photos till 11 o'clock at night, taking the best ones, putting them in these books, organizing these books, keeping all my staff photographers to make sure that we're getting the shots and they're getting to me. And I would take those books and I would go down there and I would buy those guys pizza and we'd all sit there for hours. And the difference between what Burton did and what we did is I was there with the photos. I didn't leave them there. I didn't let them, sit on them. I got look at the panties, pull the pants back up, take it away. And then I would get calls, and I wasn't doing it to be manipulative. I was trying to get my guys
that's
coverage.
Your job.
Right.
Was your job.
And so then I would get a call like a week later, like, hey man, what are you thinking? You think we're going to get those photos?
Nice.
And the only reason why it worked is because we had the riders we had. That's it. If I would have had any other riders on there.
You couldn't fudge that stuff. You couldn't,
I mean, we had all the freaking best guys at the time.
It's that's such a fun team. And like I said, interviewing a bunch of them and hearing, because I'm this outsider guy that really my access to it is media. So I'm watching videos going, oh, these guys hang out together all the time. They ride together all the time. But the reality of it is it's, each guy is like an independent contractor getting his shots with his other guys. And like what Ville was saying, it was probably even you calling him going, Ville, dude, up your shit. What's going on?
It was interesting, from coming from the riding aspect, going to this management position, and it was fucking intense. It was intense because of where the bar was. We would sit in meetings much like this at a table, and with all the riders, with MacDog, all the filmers, and we would do check-ins, and I'd be like, guys, like, I get that you want to go do this or go do that, but if your board leaves the ground, we need it filmed and we need a staff photographer on it. Because there was a lot of money and a lot riding on this, but these guys excelled. I mean, I don't know the amount of pressure that they felt, but I know I sat in meetings with Jeremy and JP. And those guys were fucking intense. And they, maybe they don't say, like, I want to be the best, but that was the vibe.
No, they say.
And I get why, Ville would be like, fuck, this is, too much pressure. But like, for however it came to fruition, that was the tone. You had MacDog, best fucking filmer and filmmaker. Most progressive, right? Maybe arguably, whatever, creatively, you like different videos for whatever reasons, but technically, like, he had the guys.
He's
what I mean?
Yeah.
You had really great staff of guys that were in creative, creating the ads and the look. You had a great team manager. We were on our game, and everybody stepped up, and you felt it. And so I could understand why, it was intense for people, and I understand why Ville said what he said, because it was not fun at times. And I'm sure, like, there's times where, those guys didn't like me. And for me, I wanted the hard work and the amount of effort that these guys were putting in to be exploited and respected, and seen.
Of course.
And so I took it real serious. I got real serious. I went from being a complete jokester, snowboarder to like I took a lot of pride in making sure that that we were doing what we could to help these guys out.
That last sentence you said reminds me that Kearns was working there for the for the video.
Yep.
Like the Resistance, especially. I'm thinking.
I left right before that. I was the one that came up with the name Resistance.
Nice.
And I stole it. Check this out. I stole it. There's an old Peanuts.
Yeah.
The Peanuts cartoon.
Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown. And Snoopy.
Yeah.
Was sleeping on the top of his little dog shack.
Yeah.
And he wakes up in his dream and he's fighting the Red Baron.
Yep.
And he's flying on the little doghouse, and he says, "La Resistance!"
Oh my God!
And for some reason, that was the name that shouted out at me. And I had this concept of, and I had left before this movie got finished.
Yeah.
I left in March, and that was after the season. The movie had come out in like September, October. But my vision for it was having Peter be like the general, the gnarly, hard, making sure everybody's doing their job. La Resistance, we're gonna win, you know, all that shit. And they came up with something similar.
Yep.
In that, you know, but I never shared that with them. That was just my thought about it. But anyways,
that's amazing.
So Kearns had come in after I had left.
Yeah. I just remember him saying to the team, or to who he was filming with, I think it was, he filmed a lot with Devin. He said, Devin, what if we do a part where there's just not one shot that's filler? Like every single one is an ender. Yeah. And Devin was like, I'm down. Yeah. And that teaming up. But that's that same thing you had just said, which is basically he came from whiskey, where they were making, every movie was their last. Yeah. The first one was really the last movie. They were like, let's just fucking kill ourselves and
Creekside Mob, Kearns, Creekside Mob, baby.
Yeah. But then by the time he's at Forum, he's hyper focused. Yeah. So like, I think there must have been a pride to working with the tip of the spear of the progression of the sport, and that group of guys that would have just been, work for Forum. You know,
there's
and Circa too. Like,
I got some stories about that. But so, you know, when Kearns came on board, you know, I wasn't there, but I had heard a lot that Kearns was, you know, cracking the whip, and I understood that mentality. Because some of the guys, you know, that are most rowdiest are also the most serious about, you know, excellence and getting shit done.
Yeah, yeah. Devin's a great example of that.
Oh yeah.
He could party hard. I've heard it from Johnson and Kearns, and Devin not so much, but they could party harder than anyone was partying. So they win the party. Yeah. Plus they would win the contest.
I mean, when I was snowboarding, so just, you know, you talked about generations, like, you know, JP and Jeremy and BJ and Bjorn and these guys and Peter aren't that much younger than me, but they went after it a lot different than like the Kearns and Johnson generation. We fucking partied first.
Yes.
We got fucking hammered, you know, all the stories that you hear. I mean, we were freaking rock stars. It was the punk rock scene. Yeah. And we snowboarded like we partied, just fucking out of control and crazy. And then that generation, like, you know, like I said, when Peter started flipping upside down, and Peter partied, but Peter was a fucking snowboarder first, you know? And that started to take over where it became serious and a business.
Yeah, JP was as serious as anyone's ever been about being a pro snowboarder. Yeah.
I mean, that's, you know, he's one of my goats. I mean, when I saw him do stuff, I was like, and he was doing it for a long time. Same with Devin. I mean, you know, Devin and I rode together when he was really young, like 15, 16.
Yeah, he came up to Bear Valley, right?
Bear Mountain, and he did that gap. Mountain, right. And I saw a lot of good guys get slammed on that gap that were locals. And Devin, and props to Wes Makepeace, one of my favorite people in the world, did that gap. And this kid was like, he was a kid. You know, braces.
Didn't he go over it, and in the air he goes, got it. He said, got it.
I don't remember. I just remember like sitting back and watching, and I watched Ryan Immergard, who's, you know, at Volcom now, but Ryan tried to hit that thing, got slammed. I saw a couple other guys get fucking slammed. And these Canadians came up there and just
Devin's the next level. Yeah. So was Makepeace, actually. Both those guys.
Wes Makepeace is one of my favorite riders ever.
Yeah.
You know, and I did a little bit of filming with him and Kevin.
Sick.
Kevin, Devin, and Wes with Mouse, Jamie Mossberg.
Yep.
And I remember hitting the jump, and I did like a big old backside 180 and landed, and I was like, yeah, that felt good. And then I saw Kevin go off it and go about 30 feet farther than me. And I was like, I'm fucking done. I said that a lot when I was around people. I was like, these guys.
Okay, you're around the best in the world at that time. Kevin Young is one of the most stylish snowboarders of that.
Well, and this the Canadian, there's the old joke. There's how big is that cliff? And you're in Canada. How big is that cliff? Oh, that's 20 feet. In California, those are 60-foot cliffs. You get what I'm saying? Yes. So those guys were always doing stuff bigger than us.
Yeah. I mean, the terrain there's incredible. Yeah. The terrain here is insane. I can't believe it.
It is, but it ain't the same. No disrespect to, American riders, but those BC boys, those West, Canadian boys, they jumped some big shit.
It was hard to break into the U.S. market because really, snowboarding is this one sport that was like born and raised in America, 100%.
Right.
So Canadians have a big part of it for sure.
Right.
Manufacturing started in Canada and in Quebec and stuff. I think even in Ontario, Calgary, there were a lot of people backing it up and loving it in Canada, but it really did belong to the United States.
Yeah.
It's of the States.
It's interesting to me though, and I listen to other podcasts obviously and stuff like that, but I got to tell you, like when I think about the Form 8, obviously Peter, Jeremy, and JP get talked a lot about, and Nate for his kind of where he went after
off the rails, right?
Bjorn was early on there. I think Ville and fucking Yoni get talked about, but I'll tell you what, two of my favorite people, Duffy without a doubt,
100%
Canadian, obviously, huge smile, super talented, overcame adversity, but Devin, man, like I think about guys and for how long he's been doing it, and his scope of work, I mean, if he's not up there with at least the best Canadian snowboarder without a doubt, if not one of the best ever snowboarders. I don't know. I don't hear his name get thrown out as much, but
the thing about Devin for Canadians, that if I'm speaking on behalf of Canadians that I know,
right?
I thought he was the biggest name in the world.
Yeah.
When JP and Jeremy started now that we're doing history stuff.
Right.
And it's like, oh yeah, they were making more money or whatever. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Devin wasn't like the top guy? Because I was all in for Devin. But then I guess
a lot of it though is like who's negotiating your contracts and all that kind of stuff. And I think I mean, I can't believe like Jeremy's riding still the way he is, and Devin's riding the way he is, and JP's. I mean, that's I was done at 26, 27, and that was considered old.
Right.
These guys are in their 40s. And
it's in their blood. There's something about the way that they stand on a snowboard. Like, even if they're just carving down the run. I saw that at Mount Baker with Jeff Fulton.
Right.
Which he got Craig into snowboarding.
Right.
And just seeing him turn, I was like, that guy's someone. You know what I mean? Like that. There's no way that style got missed. He is somebody important to the sport. And those guys, all those pros at that level, at that time, you didn't get to be a Mark Frank by just like mouthing off.
Right.
Like,
props
no offense,
to Mark Frank, right?
Yeah, no offense to like Kearns or any of those guys.
Right.
And Sean Johnson, probably the most underrated Canadian snowboarder of all times. He was really fucking good for that era.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. I'm waxing about Canadians and the whole
No,
thing.
well, again, when we were, early on, even though, if you will, came from, an American sport, if you will, those guys were, you could have a whole show just about all the Canadians that mirrored all the Americans at the same time.
Well, smart Canadians went to the States. That's how Kevin Young became Kevin Young. Was that he's like, shit.
Well, but for our Chris Roach, you had your Sean Johnson. Right. You know what I mean?
Yes.
For our Aaron Vincent, you had your that kind of thing.
Sure.
And so I mean, Al, for example, Al's a fucking killer snowboarder.
Al Clark?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Right. And so there's a lot. I mean, I could name off a bunch of guys that were from Canada that were doing the same kind of things that the Americans were doing at the same time.
Yeah. What era of Sims are you at Sims?
So when I was at Fourstar Distribution, Forum, Special Blend, FourSquare from 97. I was only there for 3 years.
Yeah.
And, again, there was a lot of egos, and from a payment standpoint, I was getting paid pretty good.
Yeah.
Especially, I'd worked in corporate world in the mortgage industry through college. So, I felt like I was getting paid pretty good. When, for whatever reason, Raul Reese wanted to start a skateboard company, and they were trying to get Muska. Yeah. And, they kept trying to get meetings with him and this and that and blah, blah. And I finally was like, I wasn't part of the skateboard, member of or workforce there that was trying to put it together. They had a couple other guys. And I knew Steve Black, who was the team manager at Easy America. And I told Raul, I'm like, I can get a meeting with Chad if you want.
Rad.
He's like, you're snowboarding. We're not doing skating. I was like, don't fucking matter. I can get a meeting with him. And we got a meeting with Rune Cliffberg, Jeff Raleigh, and Muska.
Holy shit.
Right. And we sat down at the Fisherman's Wharf in San Clemente, and Raul really wanted Chad, but Steve had an idea of all three of those guys, which would have been insane.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So we put together a meeting and we started Circa. And, I felt like I was an integral part of putting that together, getting Chad over there. Not that I got him over there, but I got the meeting going and helped facilitate. And, and so when you start seeing everybody else, happy and successful and you feel like you're a part of it, when you're younger, you get a little bitter about that shit.
100%.
And when I was at working or even riding for Special Blend, it was like 3 people that were there. And then when I started working for them, it was like 15.
Yeah.
When I left, there was probably 50.
Wow.
And Raul had brought somebody in over us. All respect to the guy they brought over us, but he wasn't looking at promoting internally. And so a couple people got bitter. Yeah. And I had a lot of calls from other companies trying to get me to come over there because they'd seen what I was doing. They heard, this guy's blowing up the team and blah, blah, blah. And I'd always kind of said whatever. And I told Raul, like, so-and-so called me, and he'd laugh and we'd laugh. And I got a call from a headhunter about Sims. And the guy said, hey, there's a guy that took over Sims, John Texter, who's got the license. And we're looking to make some changes. And Tina Bassage, who was a friend of mine for many years, called me and said, she was on Sims, like, hey, what do you think about it? And I was like, I don't know. And so the headhunter asked me, like, what would it take for you to come over? And I gave him a number. Yeah. I think it was like, $120,000, $10,000 a month back in 90. This was 2000. That was a lot of money.
Yeah, that's solid.
And I figured it was a nice round number, $10,000 a month. And I told Raul, like, hey, these guys are offering me $120,000 to come work for them and turn around the brand. And he just laughed. Raul has this laugh, this hyena laugh. You can never turn around that brand. That brand's junk. And so I I had, again, the ego, and I felt challenged, and I was like, oh, okay. So I told the guy, well, what do you want to do with Sims, And he gave me like this bullet point, like 6 things. We want to revamp the team. We want to move it here. We want to get into a Mac Dog movie, this, and that. I said, that's all you want to do? He's like, yeah. I'm like, fuck it, sign me up.
Wow.
And so that was in 2000, and a couple of creative guys had come over with me. The sales manager had come over with me. And, not however this sounds, but literally in a week I had all those 6 things done.
Oh, shit.
I had gotten this in with Mac Dog. Mac Dog was kind of, having issues with form as it was. We went over, got Mark Frank, Brian Thien, Kurt Wastel, Jason Murphy.
Oh, yeah.
At one time we had John Jackson on there. We had Duffy on there. We had
the team was
Ika Backstrom.
Oh, yeah.
We had Giton Chenut, Nico Droz, Neil Prova. We had a lot of good guys over there. And a lot of the young guys coming up, too. And we got covers. I mean, I ran the same program I did at Forum, just with different riders. And fuck, man, we had Mark Frank. And I wanted to get Mark Frank on Forum. I didn't have much with the team over there. Yeah. I was more, here's what the team's doing.
God, that would have
been the product.
Good. Yeah.
But with Sims, I had Chris Seda from World Industries come over, and he was managing the team. We had Mark Frank on there, and
Yeah, was he the key guy on that team? Do you think you had so many heavies, though?
You know, I mean, it's just like saying who's the key guy at Forum.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? There's just different ones for different. I mean, Brian and Thien and I had grown up together, and we were good friends in high school and really good friends after high school. And he was like, you know, he got me into snowboarding. And his career, he listened to a couple guys that didn't give him good advice. At one point, he could have rode for Burton.
Oh, wow.
And he didn't. And he started a company with these other two guys that really didn't go anywhere. And they just advised him in a way that I wouldn't have. And so I kind of took him under my wing on getting him, reviving his career. And he had a freaking massive career after that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, he was powerhouse, Marco. Obviously, Wastel. I mean, Wastel was like, in my opinion, a Canadian version of Devin.
Yeah.
I'd seen Wastel riding when he was 14, 15 years old, sleeping on couches up in Big Bear.
He's solid.
And he's still going.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about up-and-comers, like Van Wastel, his kid?
Yeah.
Is going to be insane.
I would bet on that kid.
Right.
Yeah.
And same with the Thien boys. He's got twins, and they're studs. So we had Tara. We had Tara Takitis. And we had Tina Bassage.
Oh my God!
On that team, so we had like
crushers.
So you know, was it Forum? No, but in hindsight, looking at Sims, I completely neglected the fact of the heritage of that brand. We changed the logo, right, and got rid of like the hard boot boards, you know, the carbon race boards,
right,
and we went a completely different direction because that's what I knew how to do, and that's what those guys wanted.
Yes.
And so it worked for what they wanted and what we wanted to do, but ultimately for the longevity of the brand, I think it was probably a hiccup.
It's really hard. They were the very first snowboard team that was like overwhelmingly stacked.
Oh.
Yeah. It was crazy.
If you looked at a case study of Burton and Sims, and two brands that essentially started at the same time, it's fascinating from a business standpoint, one company that makes the right choices and one company that makes the wrong choices. Yeah. And I took it for granted when I worked for Tom about how much Tom actually meant to me in my life. In that, you know, if I didn't have snowboarding, I would have fucking, you know, I didn't grow up in a shitty home and, you know, and you know, drugs and blah, blah, blah. But I made a lot of bad choices where I would have ended up not where I am today. Yeah. And I owe that to snowboarding and I owe that to Tom in my mind, because for me, Tom is the godfather of snowboarding. I know some people say Jake and Sherman and Barfoot and all that, but for me, it was Tom. And when I was working with Tom, there was a lot of resistance to, Tom, we're not going backwards, we're going forwards.
Oh, I got you.
And so, you know, I needed to have more respect for who.
But that's 20 years too early.
For sure, but my point is that, you know, in hindsight, I would have done things a little bit different, but all props to Tom, and that heritage is something that I'm proud of, and I was proud to be a part of Sims. Yeah. But again, if Tom didn't invent snowboarding, I probably wouldn't be here having a conversation.
That's sick. Right. Well, you guys did you took over the West Beach Classic. It was a Sims Invitational that year.
Yeah. World Championships of Snowboarding.
Oh my God, I forgot all about all this stuff. Like Guar going down to Vegas. You guys I went to the Vivid Girls dinner.
Vivid.
Were you at that dinner?
So the one thing that I understood about, you know, when I got to take over the marketing and like have it be my ship instead of Forum. Yeah. My philosophy was, as long as they get the fucking name right, get as much exposure as you possibly
100%,
can.
Sure.
Now, again, you know, there's a little bit of ego there because this is my thinking. I'm not thinking about Sims Snowboards, this brand that has all this heritage. I'm thinking about, we're going to fucking put it to the people and we're going to make them remember this name. Yeah. I mean, I remember getting a call, you know, we did an ad with Mark Frank, and it was the evolution of Mark Frank and his graphics, and goes from being, you know, this caveman dragging a woman by her hair all the way to having this side piece woman. And I got so much hate, mail, phone calls, media, about how, you know, misogynistic it was and this and that and blah, blah. And I remember this woman calling from some group, and they said, we're going to go to Bear Mountain and we're going to protest your brand. We're going to boycott Sims, and we're going to have banners and we're going to have news crews there. And I was like, okay. And I said, okay, do you want me to make the banners and the T-shirts and everything? And she was like, what do you mean? I'm like, I will print you boycott Sims whatever banners, T-shirts.
With the right
if you can
logos
guarantee that the camera's going to be there. She's like, I don't think you understand. We're boycotting your brand. And I said, I don't think you understand.
Right.
I will support that.
Yeah.
Because that was my mentality, you know.
That's
So
awesome,
the Vivid
dude.
thing and the Guar thing was all for like, you know.
It made a splash, though. That was the thing.
Yeah, but it didn't have longevity.
No, but it was like, okay, we'd hear about it as buyers for a store. Hey, Sims is coming back. You go, yeah, so who gives a shit?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I didn't want to have happen.
But then what ends up happening is all of a sudden, you know how it is.
Yeah.
10 years of SIA in Vegas, like there's always something.
Right.
Like, do you have tickets to the ride party?
Right.
Do you have tickets to the Vans? You know, Palmer's going to fight, who was it again? The skater
Skateboard
guy.
Simon.
Yeah, Simon.
Right.
Woodstock.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel, and maybe it's because I was invited,
Right.
I feel like that Vivid dinner and the
was a good
Guar
one.
thing
Yeah.
was like what people were talking
I
about.
forgot about that dinner. It was like Benihana's or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
no,
crazy.
it was good. And
it was crazy. I went with Scott Surface somehow.
Yeah.
It was like an invitation only thing, and we
Well,
somehow,
Scott Surface and I were boys, so probably figured something out. But you know, going back to Forum and Special Blend, so I was involved. I was in charge of media and promotions, which wasn't just snowboarding. Like I did all the SIA parties. So when we had the Fuji show up, and we had Red Man, Method Man, like we were doing all that stuff. That translated over to Sims.
Yeah.
So when we did the Sims World Championships, like I was the one that put together all, you know, not to me, but like,
No, this is all
I
about
forget
you,
all
man.
the shit that I
Yeah,
did, but we
yeah.
put together the bands,
Cool.
all the bands up there and stuff like that.
I don't even remember who played there.
Jurassic 5, Dilated Peoples, who was If You Move, We Move, just like that. Dude from the Dirty South. Oh, I'll think of his name, but you know.
That was so fun. Like that, and that was the same thing. Was like, okay, like so. At first, it was like, so what? Sims is coming back.
Yeah.
Then it was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
They're stacking the team. They're doing all this promotional stuff that's insane.
Right. Conversely, when I was at Forum and I would ask, like, what's my budget for this year?
Yeah.
They would ask me, how much do you want to spend?
Right.
I'd be like, well, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah,
like,
give me a budget.
Yeah,
I'll
I need
spend it.
like what are our sales and
Yeah.
all this.
Yeah.
No, you just, what do you want? I remember literally getting $500,000 in cost of product to be able to give away. Okay? So when I went to Sims, I was like, how much is my budget?
Why give away that much? That's insane.
Well, because we had Wyclef wearing it, we had Joey from Friends wearing
I
it.
got
We
you.
had
Oh yeah,
so
that is
so
true.
so
That
in
is
my
true.
mind,
right.
In my mind, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And I was the one who requested it. I thought if I asked for 500, they'll give me 250.
Yeah.
Marcus, boom, 500, no problem.
Holy
we had a
fuck.
cage in the back of
Yeah.
the team room, especially built, and there's legendary stories about it. Like people would come in there with grocery carts, load up shit. But for me, that wasn't really what I wanted it for. I wanted it for, you know, I was thinking big, like mainstream, like Friends was having, 20 million people a week watching that show.
Yeah.
And here's Matt LeBlanc wearing.
How did that even happen? You just get it on set to set dressing or
when
whatever?
when I rode for Joyride, we did this thing for MTV when they used to do like the Snowed In. And they would have snowboarders and skiers
I
or whatever
remember
come there,
that.
right? And so
Yeah.
I did some on-camera stuff, and I had
Nice.
hooked up with a couple of producers that I knew, and clothing people, wardrobe people, and they started getting my name out there, like, "Hey, you want some cool attire?" What this is, fast forward, I went to a forum, and I still kept in touch with everybody, but. Hey, the MTV people want to wear our stuff. We'll send it to them. No, but I know this girl over here and this nasty little man, and what's his name called? Justin Timberlake. 98 Degrees. When he was in 98 Degrees, they wanted to wear our stuff at Snow Summit, and I was like, not having it. We're not having a boy band. Like Method Man wants some shit.
Yeah.
We'll send it. But so it got to the point where we were like. Cutting people off.
That's insane.
Now, no offense to Justin Timberlake, but when he was in the boy band, like we don't want to.
No, I got you.
We already
I
had a
got
boy
you.
band
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the
yeah.
team,
Yeah.
But so I kept those contacts, and I rolled them all the way through for him, and rolled them all the way through Sims.
Yeah. How did you hook up Guar? Good call.
Well, you know, so here's the deal. Like, all props to Peter Line, because that was the Peter Line thing at D23.
Yeah, you bit it for sure. But that was,
but
and it
the
was
way
dope.
the way that worked out, I was with Trevor Story. No, not Trevor Story. Fuck, I can't remember Trevor's last name off the top of my head. But Trevor O'Neill. So I was with Trevor O'Neill, who Canadian, worked at Gen X when Gen X had Sims, and once Jamie finally made that transition to get Sims, he, you know, wanted to sign me, so he flew me back up there and put me in touch with Trevor. Trevor's about my age, and we went to a Guar show. First time I'm meeting this guy, we're going to a Guar show.
Rad.
And admittedly, I'd never been to a Guar show before, and I was like, okay, well, let's see how this is going to be. And I went to the Guar show, and it was fucking amazing, as you can imagine, and blood's everywhere and blah, blah. And I'm watching guys in business suits, and I'm like, why the fuck is this guy here in the mix, getting body parts tossed on him, and he's just in love with the thing.
Yeah.
And so Trevor was a creative guy, and he told me, he's like, it would be cool to do a board series with these guys. I said, you want to do one with them? I said, yeah, I'd make that happen. And so, you know, I didn't really think about the fact that Peter had done it, and we wanted to do it a little bit differently.
Yeah, Peter done like a little...
Right. But, I mean, you know, like, there's an old saying, bad artist copy, good artist steal.
Sure,
And so, you know, it was kind of like on the border there. And so we did that, and those guys were cool. Dave Brocky and the boys, rest in peace. But, yeah, we had a lot of fun with that. They got us in a lot of fucking trouble in Vegas.
Yes.
Where I'd never been on the lower floors that go down below the casino where the fucking mobsters take you. But I got to experience that.
That's chaos.
No, dude, Dave. They literally had Dave Brocky, if you can imagine, lead singer of Guar, in a chair with those handcuffs that go over the top of the chair.
Oh, my God.
And he was sitting there, and he was looking at me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to fucking do something. They brought me down there. And the mobster guys, when they were bringing me down there in the elevator, they pushed that button that has the key, and that's the only fucking way you can go down. And we're going down there, and I remember one of the guys saying, he's like, who the fuck brings a disgusting fucking guy like this here with a 2-foot fish cock into a family establishment? And we're in a fucking casino, and I'm like,
yeah.
It's family establishment, okay? And I'm like, listen, I'm sorry, blah, blah. And Dave's fucking drunk and pissing people off, and I took responsibility for him, got him out of there.
Oh, good for you.
But it was scary.
Yeah.
But anyways, that turned out good, and I think if you remember that trade show,
I do.
we had the Vivid Girls and fucking Guar in the same booth at the same time.
Unfucking believable.
Yeah, that wasn't really well thought out.
No, that was dope. It was dope.
I mean, like, you remember it. That's the thing. That's what we were trying to do is, and the Vivid thing, obviously sex sells. That was easy. And I knew we were going to get some controversy for it. The creative guys came up with an idea of, shipping it in a black bag so you couldn't just see it on the floor.
Yeah.
And I think we had two versions. One, they were in bikinis, and one, they were...
That's right. So the ones on the floor had bikinis, and the ones in the bag, they were naked.
Yeah.
It was I mean, it was a genius thing for sure. It definitely was like, okay, they're trying really hard here. They're definitely trying really hard to go. I mean, but like when I think about Tom Sims himself, like the beginning of the brand, him leaning up against the wood barn or whatever with the chicks in bikinis, like that was
and getting the ticket from the cop, and then spraying that skier and stuff like that.
Totally, man.
It's fucking James Bond for a minute,
Yeah, him and Steve linked
the thing that I didn't equate to was when I was at Forum, we couldn't do anything wrong.
Right.
When I was at Sims, it seemingly didn't seem like we could do anything right, okay? Because, how do you equate all this hype that we're getting to sales? Great. The Sims guys are doing that.
Right.
Still not going to fucking buy boards.
Yeah, I think we were pretty tentative with our order. It wasn't like we did, like, it wasn't like you jumped the queue. Right. It's like, okay, we'll see if we can sell these.
Well, that and
we'll
you
put them on the wall.
Much like the video part, like when when you're a pro snowboarder, you get a video part.
Yeah.
You do something.
Yes.
It's a wave effect. It takes years back then for that. It's a ripple effect of when is it actually going to be, noticeable in sales.
Right.
And so you could do something this year, but it's not going to come out till next year, and then the following year when people are going to actually respond to it.
Right, when you actually have the spreadsheet of what the sales were.
Well, that and because videos didn't come out until a year later, right? Yeah. Then they come out and they're in the market for a year, so that's 2 years.
Totally.
So if you're doing all this cool shit, it's not going to show up in sales for 2 years. Versus today, I mean, I can't tell you how many snowboard clips I've watched where
it was yesterday or today.
Well, and it was like, and it's a 10-second clip. Yeah. That's an amazing clip, but there's so freaking many of them that it's lost in the mix. Yeah. Back when I was snowboarding and you had a video, like when I lived with Whitey, and Whitey came home and he said, I shot the biggest air I've ever seen. It was Ingemar Backman.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And he showed me the photo and I was like, what the fuck? Now that photo sat there for months and months and months before it was on the magazine.
Right.
Well, I start talking. Yeah. I tell you, you tell somebody. Now the romance of this photo and the idea of what it is, and you fucking can't wait for that thing to come out.
It's unreal.
It's there.
Yeah. I remember
now,
that.
Boom.
Yeah.
You go on your Instagram, it's there. It's a completely different way of marketing today. And so for all the things that we did, with Sims, it was going to take years for that to even translate into sales.
Well, okay, so you already said you didn't really take the history into account as much, and I think that was the thing too. People have been burned with Sims a little bit, right? So if you're not taking that into account too, like you're coming into a market where, like, you're coming from Forum where everybody's like, they announced that they were coming back. Yeah. And within the industry, a bunch of people were like, hey, do you have numbers for these guys? I'm thinking about doing, like, maybe I'd be a good rep, or maybe we'd be a good distributor up in Canada. Like, what are they going to do? What are they, like, Forum was like this hype, and whereas Sims was kind of like, it had been kicked around a bit.
Yeah. And, I was young enough and dumb enough and had big enough ego to think that we could figure it out. I mean, like I said, the guy, John Texter, gave me a list of 6 things to do. I had them done literally in a week. Yeah. And I remember even going to the trade show after we produced everything, and I just told him, I said, hey, I'm done. I don't need to be here anymore. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you gave me the 6 things to do. Yeah. Did them. Yeah. I'm already fucking burnt. I don't really want to be in the snowboard industry anymore.
Wow.
And so, like, I need like something to challenge me a little bit more.
Yeah.
Again, ego talking and just like whatever, because it was that simple to do. The problem is, and we saw it with Forum, we saw it with Sims, is it didn't necessarily translate into sales. And if you're not running your numbers right, they're going to bite you every time. There's one thing about numbers, they don't lie. 2 + 2 is always 4.
Yeah.
And it doesn't care about, your team, and it doesn't care about anything else. And when you don't got shops paying, totally. And, people want their bills paid. So that was my biggest lesson.
And their orders are getting smaller. So what had happened from when I started in the shop in 93, 94, everything doubled. 95, everything doubled. 96, there was like a hiccup year. There's bad snow. For the first time, we saw a bit of a drop. And then 97, it was like Forum and back on, and all this, sales were big. But then, 98, 99, 2000, everybody had bought in. Ride had gone public. It was like people had talked about how much money everyone's going to make.
Right.
And everything was aspirational. It was like, we're going to double, 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 double.
Right.
But once that stopped, once we reached critical mass, I remember in 2000, I went to work for K2. Ride was like I wanted to work for Ride. K2 owned them. I get in there. The last thing that I'm concerned with is Liquid and 5150, because they were like the crap brands. And Gareth Knocker, our friend, was running that stuff. And at one point he said, Erik, do you have any idea the number of boards that I sell compared to the Ride people?
Right.
Like, Ride is like a handful of boards, and mine are those boxes over there that are stacked to the fucking rafters. Yeah. I've got more warranty boards than those guys do. All their
and
boards.
that was when the big box came and all that kind of stuff, and the market was flooded. And looking back on it, once you can look back at teams, like even when Burton and Sims battled way back in the day of teams and exchanging riders and stuff like that, and you had all these other brands come in, and then Joyride had a team, and then Type A had a team, and Atlantis had a team, and then Forum really Ride had a great team, and then Forum kind of like had a level of riders that were just on another level. But then you had M3, who had a great team. Sims had a good team. And now it's like everybody has a decent team or enough.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So what's going to set you aside? And that, again, in hindsight, like I look at Sims like they had something that nobody else had, and that was heritage.
Yeah.
You know, other than Burton. But again, you know, you make bad business decisions and business partners, and
so is it during the Sims time that Salter comes into your
so
into your lexicon?
You know, John Texter, who had the license for Sims, had I told you, like had a venture capital firm who made a lot of money, and I think this was just kind of his toy thing. And he actually came up with this company called Jester. And Jester was a combination of what is today Apple Music and Facebook.
Okay. Shit.
Where he had, and Sims, the game Sims, right?
Yeah.
He had this, it's almost like the metaverse. It was this 3D world that you lived in, that you had a character, that you could have your clothing that you wanted to, that you could walk around, you know, let's say Promenade in Santa Monica, walk into a store, purchase music, and listen to it. Like this whole other world. This was a company he came up with, and it was, you know, now I understand a lot more because you got Facebook and Meta and all that shit going on. But back then it was like, what?
What is this? Yeah.
Well, he dumped a shit ton of money into that. He dumped a shit ton of money into Sims, and he dumped a shit ton of money into all this stuff that you would do when you get 200 and something million bucks, right?
Yeah.
Well, he ran out of fucking money.
Oh no.
Okay. And let me tell you, one of the first experiences we had with John Texter and the Sims team, we had gone down to San Diego to watch the video premiere. And all the Sims writers were in Mac Dog's movies, which was cool. I think Kurt even got the cover.
Sick.
And to celebrate, John Texter was down there, and you know, we had a couple drinks, and all the team was around. I said, John, you know what you could do to really show that you appreciate these writers? He's like, what? I'm like, let's load up your jet and go to Vegas. Go gamble for a couple hours, and we'll come back.
No.
And he was like, let's go. We loaded up the Sims team in his private jet, took off from San Diego, in the air, called a casino host that I knew at the Hard Rock and said, we're coming in. We want a marker for like whatever, $100,000.
Oh my God.
And we want some food and blah, blah, blah. Fine, we'll pick you up at the airport. Kurt Wastell got up in front, got to fly the jet.
No.
Yes, it was cool. And so it was pretty freaking baller. And we landed, gambled, won some money, came back, but that was some cool shit. That was some next level shit.
Yeah.
You know, and you didn't see that too often in snowboarding or at all. It was the best I could tell, at least back then. This was, 2000. But anyways, John knew how to blow through money. And he mismanaged the business. And like I said, like, what's the budget? There's no budget. That was kind of going on at Sims 2. We had an office in Santa Monica. Like, why the fuck would you have a snowboard office in Santa Monica? That was super expensive, a lot of high salaries. And eventually got himself in trouble. And Jamie's king. Jamie Salter is the king of looking at a situation, looking at the balance sheet, looking at where there's opportunity. And I saw him personally put together a deal, I think it was for Volkl Skis, VOKL,
yeah,
where he had them on the phone, and they were hemorrhaging money, and they were going to go out of business. Jamie bought all their inventory from them, sold it to somebody with the money that he sold all the inventory for, bought the business, and had Volkl now under one of his brands that he could mass distribute. He was a genius like that. It was the same thing with Sims.
Yeah,
Sims
I don't think people would understand what that mechanism is. Can you do?
So one of the things I did after working at Sims was I started a closeout business, a liquidation business. I learned it by watching Jamie.
Yeah.
So when you have a bunch of inventory, let's say, you're a ski company, and you don't sell all your skis, you've got inventory that's basically cash that you paid full price for from the manufacturer sitting there in your warehouse. Well, you've got payroll, you've got rents, you've got all things it takes to run a business. You've got no money coming in because it's summertime. And now, for your next year's orders, you've got a purchase order with the factory that you got to come up with typically half the money to put down. You've got no money.
Right.
You're going to file bankruptcy. You've got this inventory. Jamie is a master at taking that inventory that you have, in whatever way he has for distribution, selling it to somebody, typically like Foursquare Group, Costco, somebody big where you don't want the product to go. You don't have the balls to pull the trigger to send it there, but Jamie does. Sells the inventory for $1 million. Okay. Buys it for $300.
Yeah.
And says, I'll give you $700,000 for the brand.
So it requires that the brand that you're buying has some sort of integrity in your business, right? Like, so it's like they've been, they've been buying ads in Trans World and paying team riders and doing all the things to make a
Who knows? But all I know is this. Jamie had a lot of brands that were once leaders that weren't.
Yeah, then he just sells it to the
I mean, Jamie had a lot of shoe brands. Jamie had Lamar, Sims, Liquid, 5150. He had all those brands. All the brands that were a brand at one point, he had got. And the way that he did it was he would go to Foursquare, Big Five, whoever it was, and say, how many snowboards do you want at $50?
Right.
And they'd say, well, for $45, we'll take 100,000 boards.
Right.
Jamie would go to China and say, I need to build 100,000 boards for $25.
Yeah.
And he would work on razor thin margins. And now you're looking at a total business with Gen X that had all these brands and a closeout division that was doing $90 million in sales.
Jesus.
And the way that he ran his business was super tight. So if he profited $9 million on that $90 million, he could find somebody to buy the company for $100 million.
Right.
He's a genius like that.
That's insane.
And that's like the level that I understood him being at.
Yeah.
Now he's with
he stepped it up.
Authentic Brands and $5 billion or whatever $12 billion company. He's doing the same thing.
Yeah, but with big brands
on a bigger level. So when
Reebok or whatever,
when I was on my way out of Sims after Jamie had sold it to Huffy had gone bankrupt and then it went somewhere else and I was just done dealing with it. I had saw how Jamie did this, and there was a lot of brands in the industry that would never sell to Jamie.
Of course.
Right. That I had relationships with that would sell to me and trust me with their product. And so ultimately I got out of the cool side of snowboarding and went into the money side of snowboarding.
Well, who was your Foursquare group for you? Like who did you have?
So I didn't I looked at more on a micro level than a macro level. Like Jamie would make one call and get a $500,000 purchase order.
Got it.
I had like 30 to 40 customers.
Like core shops still.
Yeah, some core shops and some, online started to take off. I also had an online store. I had a relationship with TJ Maxx and Marshalls and all those guys. And
Well, those are the Foursquare group for down here, right?
Right, but at the time... Canada, when, somebody throws a pebble in the water, everybody hears about it. Here, it's a little bit different, And we didn't have the internet like we have now and all that different stuff. And the sales managers would call me and say, sell it to you, wherever it goes, you're responsible for it. And they would know, probably selling it somewhere they don't want, but it wasn't on them anymore. They could blame me. So I went from
Right.
Forum, hey, Forum, to Sims, to closeout guy? You're a fucking closeout guy now?
Yeah.
And like I said, I mean, my level of friendships changed. Of course. Because of that. The guys that I'm still friends with, I'm always friends with. It's cool. And the guys that were friends because I was somewhere, I get it. That's how kind of business works,
Yeah.
But, I was working out of my house. I had a pick and pack warehouse. I didn't have any of the product in warehouse unless I had it sold already.
Right.
I was running lean and mean and making a lot of money and was able to invest it in the right things. And for all the hard work that I did in the snowboard industry at the brands that didn't equate to probably as hard as I worked, I made up for in the closeout business.
Yeah. See, I went to this guy who just seemed rich to me.
Right.
He was putting together a mutual fund. He seemed like a money guy.
Right.
He'd come into the shop in suits. I'm like, what do you do? He's like, money stuff.
Right.
I said, will you mentor me in money? He said, sure.
Right.
I said, okay, my plan is I'm going to leave the boardroom. I'm going to open up a boardroom-like retail store. And actually, at the time, I said, I'm going to do American Apparel.
Right.
I'd called Dov Charney.
Right.
He didn't have his stores yet.
Right.
And I said, we should do a store in Vancouver that only sells American Apparel.
Right.
And he goes, you're talking my language.
Right.
Find a spot. Call me up.
Right.
Do it. So I go to this financial planner. I go, I got a money idea.
Right.
And he says, retail sucks, dude.
He's
Don't
not
do
wrong.
retail. and so what he told me to do was wholesale. And then I learned through wholesale, holy shit, this is perfect. You get shit on loan. It's like what you're talking about with your pot business. You get shit on loan,
Right.
you sell it to people who pay you, and then you pay off your debt. It's like the easiest thing in the world because all you need is a sample.
Right.
Sometimes all you need is a picture.
Right.
Right? So, but that was in the inline thing. So
Right.
when it's inline, then you're like, you're shilling next year's product.
Yeah.
It's really fun. It's great. And,
Right.
and you're working with these businesses. But when you're in the closeout one,
Right.
you're like, I got 20 boxes of these boots. They're mostly size 8s
Right.
and lower.
Right.
And you're just selling way more and the prices are lower.
The thing I liked about it is that it was kind of like I said about Sims, like it got boring for me for a little bit.
Got it.
In the closeout world, it was always hunting.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
always hunting
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
deal. I didn't represent one brand. Like
No.
if I called a shop, I could get you 30 brands or
Right.
whatever it was.
Right.
And the way that I did it is I had, at one point, I think I had like almost $3 million in credit in all the companies in the industry.
Got it.
Where I could buy something from them on a discount.
Yeah.
I'd get 60 days on it.
Yep.
Okay. I would sell it. So let's say, let's say a snowboard cost, let's not use a snowboard. Let's say a pair of goggles cost $100 at
Yeah.
retail.
Yeah.
Wholesale's $50.
Yeah.
What does it cost them to make it? Let's say $25, $30.
Sure.
Okay. I would go in there in the summertime when somebody had a bunch of goggles and say, I'll take 10,000 goggles from you, whatever colorways they are, sizes, whatever. And I'll give you 30 cents on the dollar. Right? So
Yeah.
I'm buying goggles for, let's say, $20.
Yeah.
Okay? And I sit there and I hold them. Or I go to Australia, or I go to New Zealand on the other, and I start selling that stuff. And they're paying me cash right away.
Right.
And I don't have to pay you for another 60 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was cash intensive.
Yeah.
But I got to the point where I refined everything where I didn't buy something unless I had it sold.
That's the only way
and
to
then
do
if
it.
I
Right.
had anything extra,
Yeah.
I got into retail. Horrible fucking business, by the way. Never do retail because all your money is in retail.
That's it.
All your money is in product, I mean.
That's
it's all, you're just basically, trading one thing out for the another and paying employees. And when it all was said and done, I sold all the inventory. That's all the money I ever made. But I did have an online business.
Yeah.
And the online business, the one thing I loved about it is I could take the best 10% of whatever it is I bought.
Yeah.
And I could sell it for full markup.
Yeah.
Right?
Retail. Right.
And while I'm sleeping, stuff is selling, and I wake up in the morning, and I got a bunch of orders, and I have somebody ship them, and I'm good to go there.
Yeah.
But the thing I really enjoyed about the closeout business was it still kept me in the industry, which I liked.
Yeah.
I got to snowboard with all the people that I wanted to snowboard with, the people that were actually friends, and it made good money. I mean, it was good margin. If I did $1 million in business, my net margin was typically 30-40%.
That's big.
There's not too many businesses you could do that. So, for example, like any brand, let's say Electric, does all the marketing, all the
Right.
team, all the
Right.
promotions, all the
Right.
everything, and they got 10,000 glasses that they couldn't sell. I don't have to market. I don't have to promote. I don't have to worry about the team. I don't have to worry about shit. I got to pay them and move the product in a way that's going to be respectful of their brand and their image, which is what I had over Jamie. Jamie was doing $35 million a year in closeouts.
Right.
I think my best year I ever did was like $3 or $4 million.
Yeah.
But I was doing it one person with an assistant,
That's unreal.
with a pick and pack,
That's
and
unreal.
I was doing it in a respectful way. Like I would get into, like when I told you what Jamie told me, like, I'm glad you're in the closeout business. If you fuck up, I'm going to fuck you. Well, Jamie would sell to Frizani, and guys knew that I didn't sell to Frizani. No disrespect to Frizani, but that's not what people wanted their product back in the day.
Right. Yeah, because it's tough for, like, at a retail level. I remember going into Winners, which is our kind of like Marshalls or whatever, and seeing like cool shit in there and being like, what the fuck is this?
I sold a lot of stuff
But
in Winners.
then-
I sold a lot of stuff in Winners.
But the thing about Winners too is that it's such weird shit. Sometimes it could just be a shop went out of business.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so like it was definitely, and there's no one at Winners you can be like, oh, hey, who sold you guys this?
Yeah.
Right? And so then it was all old stuff.
Right.
And if you were mad about it at a shop level going like, well, this makes the shit look lame.
Right.
That you can buy DC shirts that we're selling here, compare at, like we're selling them more than the compare at.
Right.
But at the same time, you kind of go, well, it's a different business. It's
necessary evil.
Yeah.
You know, I used to chase guys like Jamie out of the booth at Forum.
Sure.
Because that was my mentality, is these guys are fucking up snowboarding.
Oh, big
when
time.
I heard the podcast about Jamie and saw all he actually did for snowboarding, it was pretty cool. And all props to Jamie. Jamie's a businessman. I think over the years, as he's had a family and grandchildren, it's cool to see him really get into family.
Yeah.
But, he's a monster when it comes to business, and I respect him for that. And, I got a great education from him about the closeout business. I owe a lot of what I have to him too, just by learning from watching him.
Well, one of the things about Jamie, so first of all, Jason Ford said, have you interviewed Jamie Salter? And I was like, why would I do that? Right. Like, he's the devil. Right. And he goes, no, he was just a business guy. Like, he was, like, people will say, Jake was business, Tom was like the rider.
Right.
Or Tom was core.
Right.
But Jamie was more business than Jake even.
Oh, yeah.
Like, way more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like watching at the end of his episode.
He's saw
like, that. Donna, I'm going to buy your company.
Right.
I want to buy your company. Which is like, oh my God. And so many people reached out and said, that guy, like, kiboshed the team. I stopped getting checks when he started owning the thing. I feel like he owes me all this money. I'm like, I get it. Yeah. I get it.
Jamie will streamline something. I mean, he's, it's a different world. It's like athletes going to a financial banker banquet. It's just two different worlds. And in his world, like, he's well respected and he's good at what he does. Yeah. And I tell you what, if he says he's going to do something.
Well, ABG is his retirement thing that he made that for his, he had already retired. Then he was bored, and so he started ABG to give his kids something to do. Isn't that insane? And it's like, I was going through what he owns with this guy Nando. You probably know Nando. He was at Silence and he does music stuff right now. He's coming back.
Well, I sat in Jamie's office and watched him trade stocks and make $1 million in one trade. And this was in 2003. Yeah. So, he's not.
His office now looks actually quite a bit similar in your house. That's what the first thing I was thinking.
His office is the size of my house. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. First of all, he's got behind his desk, there's a picture of Muhammad Ali with the Beatles, and everybody has signed it.
Yeah, well, he probably owns the freaking license to Muhammad Ali or the Beatles, right? I mean,
I don't know about the Beatles, but definitely Muhammad
so
Ali.
When I see what he did and how he did it, I understand it by what I saw when I was working with him, meaning I could see how the same process that he used to make millions of dollars is how he's making billions of dollars. And it's not that, if you will, genius. I mean, it's genius. No. Jamie just like, he's driven. He knows numbers. He knows how to streamline things. He knows how to put together managements. He's got great relationships. And, one of the way that I would kind of look at it is this, is there's things in your mind that you tell yourself, oh, God, that seems big. Like buying a house. Man, buying a house is a big thing. Or doing this is a big thing. And then once you do it, you're like, piece of cake. Yeah. And I think when people look and they think like, Jamie's worth however many billions of dollars, you think, God, ooh, it's such a big number. It's like the little things that he was doing are the same things that he's doing now. Yeah. Just on a bigger level.
Yeah. I see that. I see that for sure. There is a divide between the kind of person who can, like you said, basically be a snowboarder who's like a homeless person. Right. Not a homeless person that's like picking through a dumpster, but like, you're sleeping where you've crashed. You're just, and you're in, but
vagabond.
You're in these different towns, and you're at these events that are so fun that you're like, just being here is worth it. I don't give a shit if I sleep in a van or in a tent in the woods. I'm going to sleep in a tent in the woods until I find a job and figure out Whistler. Like that. A lot of people did that.
And that's what, that's what we did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I distinctly remember with, Jason Bump and Bobby Meeks and Hidden and a couple other guys where we would go to Utah. We'd go to Deseret Industries, DI. We would buy, which is like their thrift shop out there, the Mormon thrift shop. We'd buy all of our furniture. We'd put in an apartment. We'd sign a lease for 6 months. When snowboard season was done, we'd donate it all back to DI. And then we would, you'd go to Hood.
Yeah,
because you knew you'd get a little bit of that coach money and free food and camping and sell your boards and your clothing to the Japanese that would come over and you'd get stupid money for it.
Yep.
And then towards the end of summer, we'd go down to San Clemente and literally, props to Keith Wilson and George. George's name. Kleckner, I think it was, or
Kleckner's the Union
guy. Sorry, George, but I literally slept underneath their stairway. We put a sheet underneath their stairway. They would walk up, and they'd like Bump would sleep on the couch. If he had a girl, he would sleep under the stairway, and vice versa. And we'd surf all summer. Yeah, and then November would come around, and we'd move out to Utah. And he did that for years, and so homeless. Vagabond, gypsy, like that's just the way you did it,
Yeah.
And that was, God, man, those are some amazing times.
Well, I would argue, like I'm probably, I'm not homeless, but I'm still doing that. I don't own a home. I don't have a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying? But
that's a great position to be in, as much as society says no. That's a great position.
It's kind of the same thing as you said with the snowboarding. Snowboarding as a professional is just not as fun as snowboarding for yourself. Right. So the things you own you in some way, shape, or form. You can't just up and leave and go to Tahoe when it's snowing. You know what I mean? Right. But there's probably a very healthy in between where you own some stuff. And then you do the things for yourself to keep your mind healthy, your body healthy, that kind of thing.
Right. When I had my kiddo 8 years ago, I looked at my balance sheet and I looked at my passive income and what I had in the bank, and I looked at the life I had been leading, because I didn't stop having the snowboard party mentality until I had my kid. Because I was still selling, I was doing closeouts, I was traveling all over the place in trade shows, I was still partying, I was still getting rowdy. But I looked at, this kind of blessing that I didn't see coming, and I looked at what I had, and I have aspirations of being a billionaire at certain points, but I looked at what it was going to cost me. And it was going to cost me time, and it was going to cost me time with my son in those formative years. And currency is looked at in a lot of different ways, but for me, time is your most valuable currency, in that you can't get more of it. You can't replace it. Once it's gone, it's gone. The money side helps in being able to use that currency in a way that you want, your time. Yeah. And so I stopped working full time at that point and just focused on my investments and my passive income, and spend my time with my kid. And nothing will age you like having kids, as you know. But I think about being an older father versus a younger father, and all these things that kind of keep me grounded, and not able, and I say grounded and not being able to just take off when I want to take off, and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course.
But I tell you what, for 42 years. And a lot of those, in my 20s to 42, I freaking lived like a rock star. I did whatever the hell I wanted to do. I traveled. I spent money. I got too many damn stories to tell, and blessed. And none of them mean more to me than being able to spend time with my kid and watch him grow and be this little person that he's being. And that requires me to have the things that keep me stuck in the house and those kind of things. Man. Not that I couldn't do it another way, but you know what? We get enough time to go do cool stuff, this kid's been traveled quite a bit and been out in so many duck ponds and deer hunts and fly fishing trips and knows more about, you can see, I don't know if you can see this, but all these little wall clay art is all his different ducks and turkeys, and he can tell you what each one is. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, and he spends a lot of time doing that, so I find a lot of joy in that. And I still have the chase in me and the powder days that I want to get at. It just turned into more like, I call those duck days with my kid kind of thing.
I got you, man. I fully transformed when I had kids into somebody that was like in the service of someone else.
Yeah.
I thought I knew that was what I wanted to do. And then once the kids were old enough, I kind of went back to being myself. Now, I even did go back to partying and drinking and all that stuff. But you need to accept yourself for who you are.
For sure.
I need to accept myself for who I am in order to become even a better version.
Right.
So like I was really resistant to the fact I was drinking all the time.
Right.
And it was only once I accepted it that I could be like, oh, okay, well, I want to snowboard and be a good dad before I want to beat some deadbeat drunk. Like,
all right.
But the thing is, you're not even a deadbeat drunk. Like I had enough money to drink all the time, and I was going on trips for snowboarding based around, booze is really cheap here or there. You know what I mean? I'm saving money going here.
Taking it back to the old school.
Yeah, but allowing myself to do that, and then that opened up. Oh, I can choose what I get to do, right? Like so for me now, my grandfather was an alcoholic, and I remember being 7 or 8 or very young when I heard the concept that if he has a sip, he's going to go crazy and be this lunatic he was before. And I thought, that sounds insane. What are we talking about here? Is magic
whiskey
or something? Yeah, whiskey. Right.
Yeah.
But so I think that the science is in on it. You can reclaim a healthy relationship with alcohol, which is one of the hardest. I've tried a whole bunch of different drugs. Right. The hardest one to kick for me was alcohol.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm invested in a company, not to plug something, but there's a company called Feel Free. Yeah. It's by Botanic Tonics.
Yeah.
Okay. It's 2 ounces, which is about 55,000 milliliters.
Yeah.
50 milliliters of it is kratom.
Yeah.
500 milliliters of it is kava. It's a blend.
Yeah.
It's an alternative to alcohol. I invested in this company last year. We did $2.5 million in sales. This year we'll do $38 million.
Holy shit.
It's
so it's an alcohol alternative.
The best way to describe it is it creates a feeling of euphoria and focus. Yeah. Okay. The kratom's kind of a scare word for people.
Big time.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know shit about kratom.
So it's a stimulant, if you will. And kava is what the Polynesians used as...
Kava, I know.
Right. It's like a punch drunk thing. So you think about 2 ounces. It's a very small amount, but it puts you in a very focused state of euphoria. And so, alcohol is obviously huge, monetarily speaking. It's a huge business.
It's everywhere, yeah.
And a lot of people are looking for alternatives to alcohol.
Yeah.
And so that was something for me. So when I drink, I'm a social drinker. I like being around people. I don't drink at home. I just never been my thing. But when you're working 12, 14 hours a day and you're making good money with your own business and you're single and you don't have to answer to anybody and the boys call you to go drink, you fucking go drink.
Yep.
And I did that for a long time. And when I found out I was going to be a dad, I got pretty blitzed one night. I'm pretty sure I was, somebody slipped something in my drink, but I'll just take responsibility and say I was blitzed.
Sure.
And my son's mother had to come pick me up off the street in town.
Oh, wow.
And she, you can see my house. She drove me through the gate, parked back there next to the trailer where I had a boat. And she parked me in here so I wouldn't get out of the cage.
Yeah.
And she went to bed and I woke up in the morning underneath the boat. I thought I was being run over by a boat. Man. I mean, literally like cringing. And I was in a suit laying on gravel. I went back to sleep and I woke up and I couldn't get in my own fucking house, even with a key. I had to crawl through the dog door right there.
Oh my God.
And so, I mean, it wasn't that, I mean, that was, I was just drunk and partying, But my point was, is I came inside and laid in bed, and some hours later, she said to me, like, hey, you're going to be a father. And is this how you want your son to see you? The legend of Travis Wood, the drunk in town?
Right.
And it really hit me how that would impact my son. Because my mom, she still likes to tie one on. She's better than she used to be. My dad was an alcoholic and got sober for 20-something years. Mm-hmm. And I remember how I felt around alcohol growing up. And so I wanted to be very present because I only have one son, and I wanted to be very present in the process. I didn't want to be drunk and clouded. And so I didn't drink. Didn't drink for about 4 years, and I drank every now and then a beer here and there, but it's just, once you get away from something, it's kind of like work. Once you get away from something, for me, it was easy to get away from. I got back to my roots. I started hunting again, and reading books about skin time and being a dad and stuff like that. And I found alternatives. Like, I still enjoy mushrooms once in a while. I use THC and CBD to sleep. Helps me sleep. Yep. And the Feel Free product is, if I want to get, it's not like alcohol, but it's a good replacement, but it just gives you that euphoric feeling. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And it's, it's the Feel Free, not to keep plugging it, but it's a all natural. We have the patent on non-synthetic. Yeah. And so, that's where I go these days. But mostly, like, I have found so much addiction and clarity in being able to feel things and think about things with a clear mind. And when I have, my heart hurts, or my dad died a year and a half ago, and when I was dealing with that, being clear about it was addicting. And now I get a rush off of being on a peak, being in the mountains, that kind of stuff, being in nature. That's where I get my highs from these days. Well,
to put it all together, for me personally, what you're talking about, the greatest asset is time. It's the only thing that's immutable, right?
Right.
And the thing about drinking a bunch, even if you're not like fully addicted or whatever, you're not like a terrible drunk that's waking up under a boat. Right. You're just it's stealing your time. Yeah. Because I find when I was drinking, if I had 6 or 8 beers, I'm like, well, is it really worth it to go drive up the mountain? It's
just the next
raining,
day,
and then
wasting
it takes
a
away,
day. Yeah.
Then it takes away the next day. Yeah. But the thing is that wasted day also feels a little bit better if you have a drink, so you take the edge off. Right. And I found that it was stealing my time. Like, if I was thinking about a vacation, like I said, I was thinking, where do we go to drink? Right. We should go to Oaxaca. That's where the mezcal comes from. Right. So you're going to, and I would also say, well, that's acceptable. I like to drink. Right. But I don't like to drink more than I like to be with my kids. That's for sure. Yeah, I had a night where I woke up in jail, and the kids were with their mom, so it wasn't my week. But I was just like, do I really want to be this guy on the weeks I don't have my kids? Like, it's inevitable those two worlds are going to crash together. Right. Because I'll go on a bender one week when they're at my house and be in jail. Really? That's not what I want to do. But I struggle with getting rid of it. Like, did you quit cold turkey?
The thing was, I didn't really, the drinking thing was just something to do. Right. It wasn't something that I really craved. It wasn't something that I had to have. Like, now listen, I had a bout with cocaine early on, and that's that shit that, my buddy Simon Rex, the actor guy, put it to me like this. He said, there's high vibrational drugs and there's low vibrational drugs. The low vibrational drugs take away from you. You got to keep doing them. You got to keep chasing that fucking demon. Cocaine, meth, alcohol, I put in those categories. Your high vibrational stuff is your mushrooms. Yeah. You do a mushroom trip once a month, get your mind, boom. Yeah. I don't need to do them every freaking day. I know there are people that are, and I know you can microdose them. Sure. But I don't need to do them every day. So for me, when I was drinking, it was more of, I had no kids, no wife, money, no responsibilities. Yeah. I could do whatever the fuck I wanted to do. I could buy whatever I wanted to buy. And I didn't have to show up at work the next day because I own the businesses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's like, you want to tie one on?
Sure.
Let's fucking tie one on.
Right.
So, you know, now I have a kid. Like, I don't have the time to do that. So that was more about time. But I also, like, admittedly, an overused term, but I have an addictive personality. Like, when I get into something and I like it, I get into it. Like, right now, like, my thing is I hunt.
Yep.
I had a bout with cancer in 2017.
Oh, shit.
And I had to get really clear on where my food was coming from. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you start going down those rabbit holes of where food comes from, and you can freak yourself the fuck out.
Oh, yeah.
And so around here we have wild boars, pigs. So I hunt pigs, so I get pork. I hunt elk and deer.
Wow.
And I get my meat from there. I've got a garden in back. I got chickens.
Yep.
The goat's just our buddy. He's not going to get eaten. And, you know, I hunt pheasants and turkeys and birds and stuff like that. And so the challenge, the hunt, if you will, when I talk about Jamie and I talk about other people like that, there's these guys that need to hunt. They need to, you know, they need to keep going. They need to challenge. Yeah. And so the challenge of hunting is hunting, where most people think about hunting and they think about you just going out and killing something. Yeah. Because that's what people equate it to, is killing. But 99% of hunting has nothing to do with killing anything. I feel like Joe Rogan's changed, like, not that everybody. Ooh, that's a trigger word for some people. It's a big trigger word for a lot of people. I think he's educated people a lot. But see, that's my, I've had that philosophy, not before Joe Rogan, but that's always been my look at it, is that I want to know where my meat comes from. And I've done cocaine. I've, you know, traveled the world. I've had romantic affairs with, you know, famous, beautiful women. I've done a lot of shit that a lot of people haven't. Okay. Sure. And there's very few things that give you the kind of feeling for me that being out in nature and hunting does. It can't be manipulated. It's not manufactured. It's not on your terms. It's a lot like snowboarding, other than the gear. Yeah. You need gear to snowboard. You need gear to hunt. But, you know, you got to hike up that mountain. If that avy fucking blows, you're done. Yeah. Right? You got to watch the conditions. You know. So for me, that's been my passion, is hunting. In the act of doing it, and the payoff is clean, lean meat. Yeah. And there's nothing else that is on that level that is so pure to me. Yeah, so you get in a state of flow, obviously, because you've got to be in the present moment. You can't be out. For sure. I mean, you know, you got to be the right wind. You got to, you know, watch out for the predators. You've got to, you know, all sorts of stuff. You got to watch the sun and the wind and the rain and the lunar charts. And it's completely, you know, 1 minute you think you're on it and the next minute you're not. And then all of a sudden an opportunity happens, you know. Yeah. And then, you know, once you get a, you know, 800-pound elk down, you better know what to fucking do. You know what I mean? Yeah. It ain't easy packing out 125-pound quarters. Right. Especially by yourself, you know? And so I crave more of the real experiences that are, you know, that can't be manipulated these days. Yeah, yeah. When you contrast that to the manufactured experience of like a Coke high. Yeah, or like, you know, Molly going to a festival, which I've gone to festivals, sure, you know, I've seen Base Nectar, and, you know, I've gone and seen some amazing shows, and fuck, man, I've been on, you know, private planes with Peter and going to the MOBO Awards in the UK watching Tina Turner at a private show. Like, I've seen some shit, and it's been amazing. All of it's been amazing, but nothing compares to, for me, fatherhood and or being out in nature. That's it. That's what I like. You know, I think now I look about it, my later part of snowboarding, even after my snowboarding career, there's nothing like hiking up to a peak, dropping in a chute, doing those big wavy turns, and having snow fly all over you. And I grew up in Big Bear Lake in a park. So, yeah. Oh, so fun. Travis, thank you so much for inviting me to your home. Hey, man, appreciate it. And bringing the goods, dude. This has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. And I appreciate you putting all the effort into making this podcast and all the podcasts. Enjoyed a lot of them, and loved hearing Vile's take on it from a different perspective of form, because we didn't talk about that kind of stuff, and loved hearing the thing about Jamie and even Eastone. Like, Eastone's been one of my buddies forever. So it's really cool to have this format to get to know more about stories and people that you've known for a long time, and their take and their perspective. So thank you for doing that.
It's so fun for me. Like, this is my flow. This is my hunting. I'm hunting.
There you go. Appreciate it.
Thanks. FNRad shout outs this week to Travis and his son. Thanks, you guys, for letting us into your home. And thanks to all you listeners who've subscribed to our YouTube channel. It's building slowly but surely, so thanks very much. Thanks for listening to the end. And be sure to come back next week for another episode of the FNRad Snowboard Podcast, presented by Vans and brought to you by SIA Productions.